Week 2 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few kickers I looked at off the wire this week. The first kicker, Tyler Loop of the Baltimore Ravens. So Justin Tucker, we know he had off-field issues. He's not in the NFL anymore. And Tyler Loop taking the spot is the rookie of Justin Tucker. And he looked good, obviously, in his first career game as a Baltimore Raven, even though that extra missed point came back and bit him when they lost 41-40 at the buzzer in a great comeback victory from the Bills on Sunday Night Football. But Tyler Loop, there's going to be tons of opportunities, obviously on a high-powered offense with Baltimore, with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and he had a good outing. Like I said, I know he missed the extra point, and it could have been an overtime game between these two teams. The 53-yarder, 44-yarder, 4 extra points, and the extra point he missed was Tyler Loop in that ball game. So opportunities are going to be there all season long. They have confidence in him. I know that extra point definitely hurts, no doubt about it, for this Baltimore Raven team. But in week 2 here, great matchup versus Cleveland. They're one of the worst teams in the league, even though we know their defense played great versus a good Cincinnati offense in week 1. But Tyler Loop, I believe, there's a possibility he could be a top 5, top 10 kicker this season. Next kicker, Cam Little of the Jacksonville. Cam Little, it's been a good preseason for him, obviously kicking a 70-yarder. And week 1, he went out there with a perfect performance where he hit in that ball game 4 field goals and 2 extra points. So Cam Little, he's out there in tons of fantasy leagues still at 63%. This Jacksonville Jaguar team, I think the team's going to have trouble this season scoring touchdowns consistently. And week 2 here, it's going to be a matchup at Cincinnati where they know they got to put points on the board to keep up with that high-powered offense. So right now, while Little's off to a good start after week 1 and a matchup where he's got to put points on the board and they're going to try to score a lot, obviously, is this Jacksonville Jaguar team. Little definitely a kicker to head this week. The next kicker, Dylan Carlson of the Las Vegas Raiders. A couple years ago, he was the top 10 kicker in fantasy football, was Dylan Carlson. And week 1, he had a good ball game, 11 fantasy points, where he hit a 50-plus yarder, but he missed a 50-plus yarder as well and hit a 46-yarder in that game. So week 2, a matchup, home opener versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And anytime you're a kicker indoors, that's obviously a big advantage for you, where you don't have to deal with the outside elements. And this is a team as well is the Raiders, where I could see them stall with times in the red zone, even though week 1, I thought for the most part, their offense was pretty solid and Geno Smith looked good with the Vegas Raiders. So right now, like I said, Daniel Carlson, he's got a boot. He's on an offense that's going to get him opportunities as the year goes on. And like I said, a few seasons ago, he's one of the better kickers in fantasy football, and he's available now in tons of fantasy leagues. Carlson, 89%. Next kicker, Brandon McManus to the Green Bay Packers. Packers, nice week 1 victory versus the Detroit Lions, where they dominated that game. And McManus, he had a nice ball game with 9 fantasy points. So this is a high-powered offense led by Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs in the backfield, and obviously a collection of wide receivers where Love likes spreading that football out and getting it to his playmakers. So right now, like I said, this team's going to put points on the board. McManus, he's a veteran with a nice boot who's had a lot of 50-plus yarders in his NFL career. And in week 2, it's a pretty good matchup versus the Washington Commanders, where their defense is bend but don't break, and he might have to settle, especially on a Thursday night, for some field goals. So right now, while he's out there in 91% of fantasy leagues, McManus is a solid add this week. And the final kicker I looked at off the wire this week, Spencer Schrader of the Indianapolis Colts. Schrader, he had a stint with the Kansas City Chiefs last season. I thought he filled them pretty well. In week 1, he put in a big ball game with 16 fantasy points, 2 20, 29-yarders, a 30, 39-yarder, 40, 49-yarder range, and 3 extra points. So Schrader, like I said, he's got the distance, he's got the boot. He plays with Indianapolis, where I think a lot of his drives are going to stall this season. And week 2, it's a good matchup, in my opinion, where Denver is a solid defense, and they're going to force this offense to settle for field goals. So another indoor game. And we've seen Indianapolis kickers have great results over the last few seasons. We saw with Matt Gay, going back to Rodrigo Blankenship a few seasons ago, he went out there and had a good season. And I think Schrader could do the same for this team. And he's available right now, 99% of fantasy leagues. That's a few kickers I looked at off the wire for week 2 of the fantasy football season.